Today's review is going to be on a Singer 16 class-188. Which is on the brass tack right down here, the label. And it's a really beautiful machine from the side view. It's got really classic lines. It's very elegant. This machine is a walking foot machine, but it's not a triple compound feed. It doesn't have the drop needle kind of aspect to this machine. It's just a walking foot. Currently, right now, it's set up with just a single side walking foot for, doing zippers. The machine has a very simple tension mechanism back here, which actually yesterday I rebuilt because I was having some tension problems with this machine. Frankly, I have not used this machine very much because I bought it, and then shortly after I bought it, I bought another machine that I was looking for as well. And so I just kind of did not end up using this machine as much as I had wanted to at first. This is what the back of the machine looks like. You can tell it's a walking foot by this long bar here that goes from the drive shaft of the machine all the way to the front, to the needle press area. And this machine also has a unique feature. This little thing here that has a little knob at the top, this thing here can adjust it so that the feet will feed material through the machine at a different rate on top versus the feed docks on the bottom. For leatherwork, I see no practical use for that feature. If I was doing some kind of canvas work, possibly if I was, trying to sew something that had ruffles in it or something like that, but I've never really used that feature of the machine, but that's what distinguishes the 16188. Also, if you look back here, you see there's no timing belt in this machine. This is a gear-driven machine, and what that means is that these shafts drive everything. So you definitely don't want to get your finger between here and the needle because you're going to be up against what's inside of here, and I can guarantee you that's going to win. This is a really strong machine. That's a lot of torque, and even with a timing belt in there, it's dangerous. But with this kind of situation, hey, you need to really be careful and be safe. But hey, that's what makes these machines so great. Strong, durable. This one's in really good condition. And now I'll show you what it sews like. The bobbin case is underneath here, and it's a class 15 system for the hook. The bobbin has this large little arm, the appendage to the top, that easily fits inside of the hook attachment. So you always get the bobbin case in correctly, and it's really easy to load because of that little arm attachment above. I recommend not immediately sewing with power, but just using the flywheel to make your first couple stitches. And then once you've done that, gently apply power. Very, very gently. Clappity clap, clap, clap. Because this machine sounds like not a sewing machine, but a group of horses that is walking down the road. So the stitch on this is not too bad. It's not the best in the world that I've ever had. But a couple things that bother me, and I don't know if it's just this machine or what, but if you look up here, you're going to notice that this stitch looks closer than this stitch, just by a hair. And I have no idea why, and I've cleaned this machine up a couple times and I've worked on it, but for some reason I it's really difficult to get a very highly consistent stitch on this machine. And again, that's part of the joy and mystery of working on classic vintage industrial sewing machines. Now this is the thread regulator, and up top is the really tightest thread, the tightest stitch length, and the bottom is the longest stitch length, or the most, like the least number of threads you can get per inch. And it's a really simple little knob. You just unscrew it and change it, screw it back in to lock it in. And then that kind of interacts with a plate in the back here inside that changes the stitch length. But I've oiled it, I've cleaned it. It's not exact as much as I would like. Now to somebody else, this all looks great. You can tell that I have been running a lot of test stitches with this machine today. But when you look to the back, you could also tell, hey, I've got some major tension problems. And those tension problems seem to be variable as well. And it tends to be whenever I really hit the machine with a lot of power, the tension doesn't work out so well on the back end. But when I kind of use the machine with a nice consistent amount of power, the tension on the back turns out pretty well, and things are turning out pretty nice. So these are the little surprises about this machine that I think are important to know. This was the piece of material that I just ran through the machine here at the beginning. And actually the back stitch is really looking nice. It's very consistent. There's no tension problems. And the front stitch, other than the slight change in the stitch length, looks pretty good as well. So, it's a really decent, nice stitch. So now that I've talked about all the features of the 16 Class 188, let's talk about a little bit about the price and the different forms this machine comes in and what you can expect when you go to the marketplace out there in e-commerce world. So I have shopped classic sewing machines quite a bit, so I have a pretty good sense of the marketplace and what to look for when you're looking for these machines and what to also to avoid. These are great machines. They're classics. They have really nice lines. You can always tell it's a 16 188 by that little dimple and bar that's on the back over by the needle bar area in the back of the machine. That indicates it's a 16 188. As far as terms to ads to avoid, ads like this, $1,800 for this machine, and trying to pitch it as an antique that's worth a lot of value as if it's a classic car. No, I'm sorry. It's an industrial sewing machine. There's a lot of these out there. It doesn't really have any antique value. So I would avoid this ad. However, this ad for $600 for a complete setup that's all original, this is an attractive ad. And they're also indicating they're open to a cash offer or best offer. So you might be able to negotiate this down. So this is a really kind of sweet ad, and I would pay attention to ads like this. An earlier version is the 16-88, which is really an antique. People who have this machine may want more because they really do believe it's an antique. When the Singer patents ran out after World War II, Japanese companies like Consew started replicating the exact same machine. And this is a Consew. It's a 16 188. It's just going to be called something different by Consew. Again, you can tell it's a 16 by 188 by the aperture in the back. Here's the exact same machine in gray, Consew, a few years later. Again, you can pick these up for fairly good prices of $400. And for a machine and table and motor, whole setup, that's a sweet deal. The Rex is also a machine that's called the 26-188. It has a little bit different chassis, a little bit different flywheel. It also has reverse. To be honest with you, if I didn't have my 16-188 right now, I'd be looking to buy this. Recently saw one for about $500 with a table and motor. I think that's a really great deal. So going back to my own machine here in a moment, we'll talk about that. I only paid about $350 for this machine, and the table it goes on, which is very, very nice, with a new servo motor, I actually got for $150 with a sewing machine from another buyer, or seller. So, it's a very, very affordable setup. So that's the Singer 16 class 188. Now I'm going to break up the videos. I'm not going to make anything with this in this video. In the next video, I'm going to make a small flat bag or flat bag tote with this machine, just to give you a sense of what's it really like to work with this machine on a project. Because I don't feel like just sewing strips of leather and testing out the tension and the stitch quality is the same as actually working on a machine to make a project. Because when you make a project, then other things show up and you find out that, well, there's this problem here, or you really like this feature of this machine over here. So working on a project is really important to kind of like do a full review of this kind of machine. So look forward to the next video. Thanks. Bye.